You're good to go.
You're live? Okay, we'll continue on with our regular council meeting. The Township of Black River, Masson acknowledges the Yapatipi and Assinipiq Nation traditional territory. We live, play, and work there together, and together we shall build a strong and inclusive community. A reminder to all in attendance that council meetings are recorded and made available to the public on the township website for review. Do we have any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I, Council Campbell, declare pecuniary interest on item 10E, 1175 Highway 11 subdivision discussion. My company is still interested in purchasing property on the highway at this location.
Okay, thank you. Could I get a mover and a seconder for the adoption of meeting minutes? Moved by Councillor McCutcheon, second by Councillor Morris. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular council meeting of December 9th, 2025 be approved as printed. All those in favor? Carried. Need a move and a second for the acknowledgement of external committee meetings. Minutes, I should say. Moved by Councillor Allen, second by Councillor Marsh. Be it resolved that council hereby receive the minutes of the following external committee meetings as presented. Northeastern Public Health Unit, October 23rd, 2025. All those in favor? Consent agenda resolution, if I could get a mover and seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Allen, seconded by Councillor Campbell. Be resolved that the consent agenda items listed on the December 9th, 2025 regular council agenda be received by council, and that the recommendations and motions contained therein be supported as presented. Questions or comments from council? All those in favor? Carried. Brings us to our delegations. If I could get a move and a second to receive the first delegation, please. Moved by Councillor Morris, seconded by Councillor Allen. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Black River, Masson receive the presentation from KPMG regarding the 2024 audited financial statements. And that council adopt the 2024 audited financial statements as presented. So having said that, we will bring KPMG online.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. So I'll give you the floor, and afterwards, our council members might have questions.
Of course. Okay, happy to walk through the statements and of course go through any questions that council may have as well. So just make sure everybody can see the screen okay. Okay. So we're here to present the 2024 financial statements, and I can see Sonia online as well, and just want to make sure that council knows it's no small feat to do 2 year-end audits in about a 5-month period, which is what was done, and everything has been caught up, for the 2024 year end, and we definitely wouldn't have been able to get here here without Sonia's help and assistance. And so just want to give her some well-deserved recognition in the completion of all of this work. So what I'd like to do, if it works for everybody, is walk through the financial statements, give everybody an opportunity to ask some questions. I'll try and highlight what has went up, what's went down on a year-over-year basis, and then we can talk about some of the new accounting standards, and we can go into the notes in detail if you'd like. I'm open to whatever questions everybody might have. So the first part of the financial statements would be, of course, the independent auditor's report. Apologies for the scrolling, but that's the page that you're seeing here. So we're proposing to issue an unqualified or clean audit opinion that does indicate with all material respects that the financial statements are prepared in accordance with the public sector accounting standards. And so, that is, the opinion that everybody is looking for when they're looking to complete their audited financial statements. And we have, one more little bit of documentation to get into the file. So we'll get the management representation letter over to Sonia tomorrow to sign, and we'll be able to get the statements over to you tomorrow. And so you'll be able to get them all filed with the province, and we'll have the financial information return also updated so that you'll be able to submit it as well before the holidays. So we're anticipating when we look at the auditor's report that we'll have it dated as of tomorrow, just so we'll have those final sign-offs that are in the file. So switching over to here, this is what we call the consolidated statement of financial position. So assets owned, liabilities owed as a result of the year-end date. And then you have the net resulting financial assets. And so I always describe the number here that you see, if you can kind of see where my cursor is. So this net financial asset position, think of it as if you had to settle all of the obligations of the township as of the year-end date, you'd have $6.2 million to the good after settling all of the obligations, being debt that you have, paying all of your suppliers, vendors, everything like that as of the end of the year. So definitely not a bad financial position to find yourself in as of the year-end date. I would say you're almost bang on. It's pretty consistent with what you ended up at the end of 2023. But I do think when we go over the financial results and you see just how much there was included in the 2024 financial results, the break-even position that you find yourself in year over year is actually a pretty good financial situation to be in. So a bit of highlights that you're seeing here. You can see number one, your cash balance is up to about 4.1 million at the end of December. And there's a few reasons for that. You had cash flow from operating activities of about $2.3 million. So that was driven by your current year total surplus, which includes your capital transactions, and then changes in any of your working capital balances. So that means collections of receivables, payments of payables as of the year-end date. Those surplus dollars were utilized to fund capital purchases of about $1.6 million as of the end of the year. Your capital purchases were primarily funded by capital grants, and we'll take a look at that in just a few seconds. Your investments, slight decrease. If we go back to the end of last year, you might remember what was happening in the markets at that point in time. There was a bit of uncertainty happening in the US. There was a lot of confusion, what was happening, what was going on. So that did at that point in time translate into some down pressure on the market. So there was a slight decrease in the market value of those investments when you look at the year-end information for the prior year. Taxes and user charges, that's the next line. You can see that has continued to trend upwards. I don't see that as a real big surprise. I think there's only so many hours in the day, and I think you had to prioritize, what areas we're going to be focused on for the most part. I think now that, you have Sonia in there, and everything's kind of, back on track timeline-wise for your financials, it's a good area to then go and continue to focus on in 2026 to make sure that you have good collections of those amounts, just to make sure that they don't get too old. The older that they are, the less likely they are to be collectible. And we can see there has been a trending upwards of your taxes receivable as a percentage of your tax levy. So we always do a bit of a glance at that to sit there and say, what is that percentage and does it make sense? It did trend upwards in 2024. So this is obviously an area of focus for the township. The last thing to note in accounts receivable, you can see that that's down slightly to about $1.3 million. The majority of that is because you did have a slight decrease in your HST rebate that's outstanding as of the end of the year. And what's included in your accounts receivable is primarily government grants for capital projects. So for the Green and Inclusive Community Buildings program, you had some work on the arena and other federal grants that were outstanding at the end of the year for work on the arena as well. So I just note that to say, it's made up of federal grants and HST, all of which are collectible. So you shouldn't have any concerns that you wouldn't be seeing that cash. And in fact, when we looked at, subsequent receipts that we call it in the audit world, we did see those amounts, for the most part coming in the subsequent year. So just really quickly looking at taxes receivable. Taxes receivable as a percentage of your tax levy is up to about 16%. So it's up about 3% on a year-over-year basis. So as I mentioned, that's just probably an area of focus to be looking at in 2026. The good news is the majority of the increase was around your current taxes receivable. So, it's not as if we're talking about amounts that have been owing for 3 years. So if that is the focus, you'll get some good, that'll help with cash flow and those collections there. Moving on to the liabilities. So liabilities as of the year-end date are up. You can see accounts payable and accrued liabilities is up to about $2.3 million. You did have certain payroll-related accruals that were outstanding as of the end of December, and that's the majority of the reason for some of those increases. So payroll accruals and remittances are the driver of that increase. You'll likely remember me chatting last year about the adoption of the Asset Retirement Obligation Standard that continued for the current year. Please do remember that that's a combination of your amounts that are owing to remediate your landfill, as well as the amounts that are owing to remediate any hazardous materials in your buildings. So any removal of asbestos, if any of those kind of things are what's included there. And every year you have to adjust it by an inflationary factor. I think we all are aware things tend to cost more every year. So the accounting standards say do an inflationary adjustment to make sure that that's reflective of what the current costs would be. The next few items are deferred revenue. And so the easiest way to think of deferred revenue is cash that you have received and you have in your bank account, but you have not yet spent it on eligible costs. So in the municipal world, there's a few very typical deferred revenues that you have. You have OSIF dollars, you have federal gas tax dollars, you have NORDs that are able to be retained and carried over to a subsequent year if you have not spent it. So the first line that you see here is up to just over $1,050,000. That's your NORDs and your OSIF dollars. There's about 430,000 of unused NORDs and about 570 of unused OSIF as of the prior year end. And then right under that, your obligatory reserve fund are your federal gas tax dollars, and those are also eligible to be carried over to the subsequent year to be utilized against eligible capital projects. No new municipal debt was taken out in the 2024 year end, so you just see that balance coming down as a result of the repayment of your existing loan agreements that you have. And then finally, the last thing that you have here on your balance sheet is your tangible capital assets. So that's all of the amounts that you've invested in the township for all of your capital items. You did have, you can see a bit of a net increase there. That's because you had capital purchases of about $1.6 million. offset by amortization expense of about 820,000. So just a little reminder of you know, for the most part, what you spent those funds on in 2024. You did have a fairly significant land purchase of about 330,000, some water and sewer equipment purchases for about 300,000, ice resurfacer for about 150,000, playground equipment, solar project, and that was your solar project was a good chunk of what you had spent the capital on in the year, and then just some other miscellaneous capital additions like equipment and things like that. And we'll talk about it in a second about just where those amounts came from. Moving on to your statement of operations, which is all of your revenue, all of your expenses for the 12-month period ending December 31st of 2024. Your revenue was I would say you know, pretty flat, a bit of a decrease by not even 0.5% on a year-over-year basis. But please do remember in your revenues, there is a significant amount of capital items. So while you might be looking at the bottom number here at first, and you might think, wow, this was fantastic. We had a $1.9 million surplus in 2023, and it's a lot lower in 2024. Please remember that a significant amount of your revenues are capital grants, and the expenses don't sit on this statement. So in just a few minutes, I'll speak about reconciling your actual operating surplus in the year, so you can see that it definitely is not that big of a difference, and you can see how much of it relates to the capital purchases, because I do think that's a very important thing to talk through. So taxation revenue was up a bit. That's what was expected, in line with the budget. Increase in all of your taxation classes noted in 2024. Your water, sewer, and garbage charges are also up because of user charge increases per your 2024 budget. When you're looking at your other user charges and what's included in there, it includes any number of items: building permits, arena ice rentals, fire calls, gym memberships, landfill tipping fees. So there's a lot of other user charges that are included in there outside of your water, sewer, and your garbage. Your total provincial grants, that's just midway down through the line here, 1.25 million. That's primarily your operating grants. Your OMPF funding is what sits in there. And you just had a small decrease in other operating project-related grants noted in the year. Penalties and interest are pretty consistent on a year-over-year basis. Your other income right on the bottom here, the 147,000, that is made up of donations, rental charges, other miscellaneous smaller revenue streams in the year. Your investment income is down a bit, and that's as a result of you know, some withdrawals of certain investments. You know, as you have various projects that you have ongoing, when you withdraw those investments, lower investment income that would be earned on those amounts. And then all other items are pretty comparable on a year-over-year basis. So when we look at the expenses, you can see that total expenses have gone up a bit. So they're up to about 10.6 million, or 17% on a year-over-year basis. And there's a few reasons for those increases in the year. Number one, your general government expenses were up in 24 as a result of the costs associated with your labor interruption, as well as additional wages and benefits that were noted in the 2024 year end. Protection to persons and property, that one is down just a bit. You can see right here because of lower repairs and maintenance costs that were noted in 2024. Transportation costs right here are up just a little bit. Higher contract-related costs noted as a result of the labor interruption as well, noted in 2024. Your environmental services expenses right here, that's pretty consistent year over year. Your health expenses were higher as well, just as a result of some additional one-time expenses for some committee-related costs that were noted in the year. Your recreation and cultural expenses are up because of some additional repairs and maintenance costs noted. And then the prior year included additional contract costs for your economic development operations, and there were no similar costs noted in 2024. So when you look at the spending and kind of you look at 2024 in a nutshell, I think the way I would describe it is when you look at where the majority of the increased spending was, it was contracted services. So payments made to third parties as a result of primarily the labor interruption that was noted. So that's really the main driver of a lot of those expenses that you would have seen in the year. And then just a small increase in some wages and benefits noted in the year. Other than that, everything was pretty consistent on a year-over-year basis. So when we look at the important numbers here, so the 296,000, I'd like everybody to just remember a few things. There's so if we think of your what happened with your capital items, there's $1.6 million of capital asset purchases that were funded by, you can see federal grants right there of 772, and then other reserve transfers to fund some of the purchases that were made in the year as well. So in the year, there was about 450,000 of transfers from reserves that were utilized in order to kind of balance out the remainder of the spending and balance out the budget that had occurred in the year. There were also certain non-cash expenses like amortization expense of about 800,000, landfill closure costs of about 113,000. But I think all in all, if you think about, the increase in your labor costs, some one-time expenses that were noted in 2024 that needed to be accrued as well, you ended up in a quite a good financial position, all things considered. So I'd like to just make sure or remind everybody, and apologies for the scrolling here, just to remind everybody what everything looks like in the note right here. So I think this is the important note so that everybody can take a look at where you sit for the coming year. So you have about $3.2 million sitting in your working funds reserve. So those are amounts that are able to be utilized by council for various projects for the upcoming year. You do have a requirement that any surpluses that relate to your water and sewer operations, when you consider your revenues less your expenses for those operations, you would want to make sure that those are allocated and set aside for those purposes. And so you can see there were surpluses in both those areas. So as a result, you can see the amounts sitting there. A small decrease in your garbage collection reserve just as a result of some additional costs. So then what you get down to is your amounts to be recovered. And the easiest way to think of this is in the year where you're going to have to make your debt repayments, you're going to put them in your budget and you're going to make sure that you have sufficient revenues in the year that you're going to pay those debt repayments. So that's why we have them sitting there as amounts to be recovered, because they get considered in your budget in the year that you're actually going to be paying those amounts. And then finally, you have 18.5 million that you as a township have invested in your capital assets. So I always give a bit of a reminder to councils to say, unless you start to sell your municipal assets, you don't get access to the 18.5 million that you have sitting there. But what you can access for, future operations and things like that is the 7.3 million that you have sitting up here, almost 7.4 million in your reserves. Because what we see a lot is that, depending on the capital grants that you might be getting or applying for, there seems to be more and more common that there's a municipal component that you might need to be, incorporating. So, having these funds available for you do allow you the flexibility to be able to not have to go and take debt out every time that you want to do some of these things for capital. You actually can utilize the funds you've set aside to be able to do those types of things. Keep in mind also that in addition to the 7.3 million, you also have your unused OSIF, unused NORDS, and unused federal gas tax dollars. So if you think your 7.3 all of a sudden becomes I'm just doing the math quickly here. Between the two of them, 7.3 actually becomes almost 9.3 when you add the two of those amounts together. And those are the funds that you have to carry over into the subsequent years to utilize against the additional projects and spending that you would have. So I know that was a lot of information on a lot of numbers. Maybe I'll stop for a second now, see if there's any other questions, or Sonia, also if there's anything that I've missed that you'd like to add in, or if, you know, any questions council might have brought your way that I can help answer.
Any questions from council so far? Nope, we're good here.
Okay, so the only thing I'll highlight in the note disclosures is one small thing that changed in the year. There was a brand new revenue standard that needed to be adopted by the township in the year. So that was adopted. It didn't result in a material change to any of the figures in the financial statements. So nothing really to note there. And the good thing was there wasn't a lot of changes as there was in the prior year for the adoption of some of the bigger standards. So I wasn't planning to go over the note disclosures in detail, mainly because they're pretty consistent with what we would have seen on a year-over-year basis. But if anybody in council would like me to go over them in additional detail, I'm more than happy to.
We did have one question real quickly.
Certainly.
It's okay.
You okay? We're okay?
Yeah.
Yep, okay. We're good.
You're good? Okay, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen if that's all right, so I can actually see everybody's faces, and just to confirm one more time that there isn't any other questions.
Council? Nope, unless Sonia has some questions up there. Nope. Nope, that's it.
The lights on.
Okay, nope, I think that's it. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Okay. Thank
And I
you so much,
guarantee-
everyone.
I guarantee 10 minutes after this, someone's gonna have a question.
That's all right. You know what? Sonia has my contact information, and honestly, if there's anybody that has any questions, by all means, please reach out through her, and I'm happy to answer for sure.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Don't have to reread the resolution. I'll just at the end of it, and that council adopt the 2024 audited financial statements as presented. So, call for a vote. All those in favor? Carried. Move on to our second delegation. I get a mover and seconder for our second delegation, moved by Councillor Allen, seconded by Councillor McCutcheon. Be it resolved that council of the Township of Blackburn, Mass receive the delegation from Gilles Forget and just by himself?
Just myself.
Just by himself, regarding the South Centennial Manor redevelopment. We'll give you the floor for 15 minutes and,
It shouldn't take that long.
okay. Perfect. Floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. As I mentioned, my name is Joe Projet. I'm the chairman for the foundation, the mixed talk of the also the co-chair for the fundraising for the man. So I'm assuming you've all had a chance to read the information package. So I'll just skip through a lot of and just go with some of the points. On the proposed new location by the hospital, a lot of people complain about the other site should have been built where the other one was. But the ground was easy enough, it was good enough, it was stable enough. And the thing is, you'd have to build one wing, take one wing down, build wing. And then move residents there. And then take another one, your cost would want to live with way above. And will take out longer. That's why it's been located behind the hospital. That will be located. Under growing community needs. In the Cochrane district, there's an increase of 55%
percent are people that are over 50 and increasing dramatically. And a lot of people from the outside moving in, so that will exponentially, amount the increase in numbers. The recommendation for 96 beds, initially, in 2011 is when Speaker from the former CEO of Mix about the idea of renew the manor, because this one is under ill repair, it's obsolete. And also that the provincial government was saying that any B and C facility had to be improved to A facility. Therefore, which means that we have wider rooms, bathrooms that can access wheelchairs, get their room brought in and stuff like that. So overall bigger and more manageable. The rooms would be, the bedrooms would be separate, there'd be a wall in between, so each, those that were 2 per room would have a separate wall in between their own TVs. And their own window compared to what we have now, there's only one window. So the bed near the window is the one that has access to the side. That was that. And so the other thing with a 69 bed facility, it's not even at break even point, so AGH is going to hold a little bit with that, so going by 96, government is looking at increments of 32, 64, 96, 120, 26. So we decided, we asked to increase it to 96 beds. Right now, as we speak, there's a 50 people waiting list to get into the man. That includes Carpenter, Falls, Matheson, surrounding areas, and some from Yellowknife. So right now, in out of those 50 that are waiting, 7% or 10%, 7 persons from Blackbird Madison are waiting to get into the manor. There's also 7 residents from Blackbird Madison, Gone area, in the manor right now. So going through 96 beds, you can consider that we have 50 waiting list. You're adding another 30 some beds, so 30 beds. That'll bring it down quick a little bit. Okay. I'm gonna go down to the estimates. The original Class A estimate was $46 million to build a manor. That's we had done by a private firm. Well, guess what? When the tenders came in, it came in at $65 million for a 3-wing. And it was the same, but all the other manors are getting built. Like, part of it on COVID, and the prices have gone up since. So the initial funding that was available, $23 million for the manor. Okay. And it was $23 per day per bed per resident. The $23 million would have been paid off after construction was done. So you'd have to borrow all the money ahead of time. Now with the new formula that we have, they've raised up to a maximum of $45 million, which we will get. So and you're getting that funding as you build, as per section, 6 months in increments. So that is going to prevent you from incurring higher interest rates or longer payments. As I mentioned, the Convert Falls did know that it's very important for the entire region. So they've committed to 3.3 million. They gave us 3 million already, 300,000 already. The commitment of the other 3 million is with the assumption that it's going to get built. I mean, which makes a lot of sense. They lived it before us. So, so the total rate so far is 5.8 million, which includes 3.3 million contribution from Convert Falls, a loan of $25 million, and that's through the Ontario Finance Authority. So right now the current shortfall is 19 million. What isn't included in there? MGL Bell gave us $1 million, and they've already committed to giving us another $2 million. Their foundation. So that's, we can add, okay, deduct $2 million off that. They spoke about a three-story design, which would have saved a lot more money, but not very efficient. They have elevators and CO and And our board spoke to the staff and said they don't want that, they'd rather have. The 3 wings, which is a lot more, and it's, if you look where the manor is, they're gonna be able to see, there's a lot more room there, I mean. You're in the farm, you're in the field, basically is what it is, and but right beside the house. There'll be a lot more aesthetic. All right. Okay, and we also have. George Heller, who used to be the manager of the Hudson Bay River Falls, and then eventually became the CEO of Hudson Bay. So under one of his sons that passed away, they formed the Erica Heller Foundation. And they have committed $300,000 towards our man. With the assumption it's getting built, they've already given us 50,000. And he's well connected. So he contacted Fred Gerard, which is the lead fundraiser for the sick kids. And retired from that, but he's raised millions and millions of dollars for a sick kids hospital. And he's volunteered to try to find us some funding through corporations. Free of charge, he's doing this for nothing. The reason that George Heller, of course, is inclined to support River Falls because his wife is from River Falls, which is a bonus for us. Basically, I know seen this sheet, I'll send it to you. Basically, what it says here is I've asked the CEO for a breakdown of all the employees and where they came from. So from Madison, we have 3 employees that work at the manor, 2 from Raymore and 1 from Balgani. And as far as the hospital in UGH, you have 2 from Madison, 2 from Balgani, and 4 total. So basically 6 total for the South End Manor. Surprised when I saw the actual final figure. For MIPS hires 389 people for 3 hospitals in man. 389. This quite a number. So they asked, of course, we've done a presentation to a Cochrane Council over a year ago, and they haven't even replied to us yet. So we're hoping that they're just waiting to see if it's going to get built before they say anything. So they asked from Black River Madison. I know you've been through some tough times. We all realize that. And that's why we waited so long before we even approached council. We're asking for $25,000 a year for 5 years. Well, for a total of $100,000 for 4 years. And we know this is an ask, it doesn't mean we're going to get that, but at least this is what we're shooting for. And council can decide whether they want to donate or not. Really, it's for all of us, it's all for the residents or not. I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Fredette. I'll open floor to questions from the council.
I did have one question, but I did answer it. I just wonder how many people from Madison were currently in the South Manor, and that you said 7.
You said 10%, which is
No, but currently right now.
yeah, 10%. It comes out to 6.9, so 7.
7, okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Elm?
I'd just like to say it's a great idea to be expanding and making lots of room for more people. As you said, the population is getting older in this area.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people that nowadays. Previously, it was more accessible to be able to take care of your parents or grandparents and things like that. And nowadays it's not as accessible to do so. A lot of people have busy lives and are unable to be there and support them. So having a place like this where there's more room for people to go in that need the help, I think it's a very good idea.
And what happens now is that couples are working, so they can't.
Exactly.
Their beds.
Yeah.
And I know all about budget. I mean, I'm on council for 17 years. 8 years with the mayor policy. Well, all I can say is good luck to all of us.
Councillor Bouchard.
Yeah, thanks. I just have a question, like, I understand that the importance of this and all that, but you've got it figured out here at $677,000 per bed.
That's what, yeah, that's what the It's crazy.
I mean, like, I understand that some of the staff have concerns about having a three-wing unit, which would be, you know, in the best of worlds would be, you know, nice, but we live in Northern Ontario, it's 40 below, it's geographically, the smaller you make the unit, the more money. I don't know if you guys are reviewing that
Yeah,
again.
the other thing that I can say, to answer to that is, you know how hard it is to keep staff.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So if you don't make it. That they love, like what they're working, you're not gonna come and start to.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Thanks again for listening to me.
Thank you, Mr. Bridget. Thank you very much. So, don't need to reread the resolution, I'll just call for a vote to receive this delegation. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much.
Good.
Moving on to new business. We're moving a second for the water meter bill, please. Moved by Councilor McCutcheon, seconded by Councilor Allen. Be it resolved that council receive report DPS 2025-016 regarding the water metering and billing review as information. Questions or comments from council? Councilor Allen.
I see that there is 3 recommendations. Now, do any of these recommendations change the current billing cycles for the water and sewer and garbage rates? Because personally, and I've talked to many other residents, that part of this, the billing, prepaying for water is, to me, something that is not, it's just not acceptable. It's, no one should be prepaying for water, so that is one thing that I don't see changed in anything here.
I believe options 2 and 3 changed billing cycle. But
Well, it would change the billing cycle because it'd be month to month based on if there's meters,
Yeah.
but only if there's meters. I
Right.
mean, overall, so if there's no meters, or if there's even partial meters, then I believe the billing cycle should be changed to reflect quarterly payments.
okay. I don't think we,
Speak to that.
okay, I don't think we're right on to the billing cycle on this particular report, but I'll let, oh, there is no Sonia. Oh, sorry. Okay, I'll let Ms. Larson continue.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I know there are some concerns about the billing cycle. It's like taxes. Those revenues are required to be able to actually operate the municipality. If we weren't bringing the revenues in, how are we going to pay the bills? That is one of the things you have to consider as well. Other municipalities, in January, you get a bill for half the year. And then the other half is done by June. So we're no different than other municipalities. I just wanted to, make council aware of that.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Morse?
For option 3 is. It's just an idea, I'm just wondering, is it feasible that maybe, where it says selective, that we could do like, the multi-residential places, the institutional ones or the industrial commercial ones? Like if that was gonna be phase 1, we could start with that group of people?
This report, I'll ask Mr. Lee, Mr. Gier, was that report based on, like the hybrid, is that based on select? Or was it based on groups, as Councilor Morris has mentioned?
Through the mayor, it was just based on discussion with Aqua and for partial billing. The option 2 is full water metering across the board. 3 would be partial to start off with 1 or 2 units or select classes. It's really up to council how they want to roll it out. The most important thing to keep in mind is that it really changes the way that we do the billing, even if you're only doing select classes. Because our current system is based on a full assessment of costs, and we divvy it up based on classes. So if you start taking apart certain residences or certain classes, then their costs would have to be reallocated and reshuffled.
Councilor Morris?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wouldn't be necessarily taking part of class. I would be saying all of commercial, all of industrial, like not being selective, all of that one group. Could we possibly look at something like that?
Treasurer would like to speak.
Oh, thank you. Ms. Larson?
I didn't have my hand up, but even on doing partials, we're looking at costs. These costs, do note that the users are going to pay to have, if we install meters somewhere, whatever this costs the municipality, we have to recoup those costs. Those costs are going to be added onto the users. Because water and sewer and garbage collection, you have to remember, does not come out of the tax levy. It comes out of the water sewer garbage levy, which is completely separate.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, council? Councilor Boucher?
But thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think the biggest thing here to remember is that us as, like, for me as a business operator, we pay substantial amount of water bill. And if you put meters on there, chances are they're gonna be probably half. Because I'm not using the water that's kind of expected that's being used. So we could end up being in a dramatic loss of revenue if by going with the water meters.
Mhm.
Which would be good. Certain people, but you just gotta be aware that the money has come from somewhere else to operate.
You know.
Yeah. So the treasurer would like to speak.
Okay, go ahead. I'll let Tonya go first. Probably the same thing.
Ms. Larson?
I just want to, through the mayor to Councillor Bouchard, I just want you to note, it does not mean that if you're metered, you're going to end up paying less. If it costs $1 million to operate the water, we still have to recoup $1 million from all taxpayers or all ratepayers. This is to remember that as well.
So by installing water meters to a select group, all users will divvy that cost up. And regardless of your water usage, that usage still has to be paid for by all users.
There would probably be a flat rate fee, let's say, for a commercial. Let's say if you're gonna just do commercial building. And then so much per how you measure the water used. But we still have to recoup X amount of dollars for the operations. So the next bill, we realize, I'm not 100% sure how the billing works with meters because we've never done it through VADM. It is another thing I would have to look at. But if we're seeing that there's a decrease in water, which means a decrease, let's say, of revenue, we still have to recoup that revenue. So we may have to increase the amount per liter used or whatever. Gilles may be able to, the CAO may be able to expand more here.
If I can, through you, Mr. Mayor, I think what the treasurer is trying to allude to, so if water costs the municipality $100,000 a month, and that again, that's just a number I'm throwing out there, the residents have to pay that $100,000. We cannot take a loss on water or utilities. So if we water meter businesses and we charge them a flat rate plus X amount per liter, that's probably going to fluctuate throughout the year because your usage is going to change, what means our billing is going to increase or decrease. So we cannot take a loss on utilities. We are legally not able to. So if the metered people ain't paying for the water, the non-metered people that have a flat rate right now, their rate would have to go up to fill in that gap. We're not, so there's no, if one person saves, the other person is going to pay more. Whatever way we divide it, we still have to pay the 100% of what the water is costing us. I'm not sure if that makes sense or not.
No,
Councilor Boucher.
just to get back into the discussion, it's just that, let's say you're paying $10,000 a year for water. Some rich, I think what we are. And we're only using water equal to a residence. And we cut back that water usage, even though you have the meter, you can't just keep increasing it because we still want to charge us $10,000.
It would go on the rest of the taxpayers, then. Like it would go on the residential.
So what you're saying is no benefit, we still have to bring that income in no matter what.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Councilor McCutcheon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When this report was made, did we contact any municipalities the same size as Matheson with pretty much the same setup, not metered? And seeing what they've done or how they operate or how we do things?
Ms. Larson will answer that.
So when we had a delegation, was it at the beginning of this year? I had contacted different municipalities to see what they did for water. Iroquois Falls went to water meters about 8 or 9 years ago. It cost them at that time $680,000 to install the water meters. Timmins does not have water meters on the houses. They do have them on commercial buildings and large multi-residential. I wish I had my notes all in front of me. I had talked with also Kirkland Lake and Cochrane. And I think Kirkland was along the lines of Timmins. I'm sorry, I don't remember Cochrane's. But
Yeah,
I had done research for that delegation to find out how the metering was. That's where I found out that their metering is, billed out in January for half the year, and then June for the other half of the year in Timmins. Your Iroquois Falls was, I'm sorry, I don't have my reports, but I had sent them to both the mayor and one of the previous counselors. I can resend it to everybody when I get back to the office.
Okay. Councilor McCutcheon.
Yeah, appreciate you looking at all those, but the communities that were checked aren't the same as Matheson. Like Timmins is a big urban center where they got 100,000 people there. Cochrane's bigger than us. Like I'm talking about actually contacting municipalities that are the same size as Matheson that has an aging water system. That way we know exactly what they're doing or how they do it or how they make it fair for everyone.
Okay, I'll let Mr. Jagger answer that before Sonia.
So just in talking about this report and some of the conversations that I've had with residents, I'm not sure if the residents have reached out to mayor and council as well. Where some of the, I'll say, multi-unit users and business owners feel where they're at a disadvantage is that if somebody has a primary residence in Blackrock-Matheson and has an 8 or 12 person pool that's on a flat rate and all they're paying is their flat rate, they feel like that individual there is probably using a lot more water in a year compared to even our average business, just filling that water and draining it. And what they had asked is if we would be able to kind of reevaluate what we do and see if there's any areas where we can make our current system even better. So if we're able to maybe look at communities that are our size, roughly, and even to see what is the percentage that they charge per different taxation. So what do they charge your residents compared to commercial, compared to multi-unit? What is a percent? Maybe our percents are off by 3 or 4 compared to the average smaller town out there. There was also the question as, can there be a flat charge that is given to residents that have a pool? You know, if you live within the Black River Madison and you're on municipal water, maybe there's like a $50 or charge that can be done on an annual basis for you having that water. Those were kind of the ideas that were flowing when people came to see me or when I went to their residence. So just to give you a little bit of context.
So the water meters didn't come up in the conversations as a wish list from the residents that spoke to you?
The resident that spoke to me understood that putting water meters everywhere was, one, not feasible, and two, they understand that their infrastructure is aging. And one of Aqua's biggest concerns is, if we start going into residents and cutting water lines and tapping in and putting these water meters up, there's a high risk of us damaging piping and whatnot, and the cost going up higher, and then who's gonna cover that cost? And then there's the whole, how are we going to receive the information from the water meters, and who's going to input that information? And like, it is gonna create more work at town hall, one way or another, if we do increase metering. So I would like to be able to investigate a little bit more what Timmins does as a hybrid, to see how they're able to calculate their water and how they charge it to, the business owners as compares to the ones that are not metered. And then also have conversations with smaller municipalities on what is the percentage that they charge residents compared to multi-users compared to commercial, and maybe come back with more information on if we are in line with our neighboring communities or if we're kind of off the rails a bit somewhere.
Okay. Councillor Morris?
Yeah, the one concern I had too, when I was reading the overall risks, was that curb stops and service valves. And the installation of meters could expose failures and, like CEO just said, cause us further problems. So I was wondering maybe if we should just revisit it after, if the master plan for Aqua goes ahead, then we come back and say, okay, this is what our aging system can handle, this is what we need to do. So we could come back to this subject after we do master plan.
Yeah, that's because they're gonna have some suggestions as well
Absolutely.
in that master plan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or they're gonna tell us about our infrastructure and what it can handle and what we can't.
Yeah.
We could be making this up for no reason. This could be all moved right now because maybe it can't handle it.
True. Ms. Larson?
Just one comment that I would like council to be aware of as well. We are a very unique municipality. We have 4 town sites and 4 small town sites. We operate 4 wells. We have the lagoons. We have the water, the wastewater, we don't, if we had a larger population, you wouldn't see as high as a water bill as you do. We have a very small population that has to cover the costs of 4 town sites, 4 wells. Like, this is something unique to us. And expensive.
Okay. So we're only receiving this report tonight as information, but did you want a motion to further the discussion, or just want to continue on this report and dive into it?
If I can, through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe if the general consensus is, let's see what happens through budget deliberations on the master plan. And then in the background, we can still start doing some preliminary research on other communities and whatnot to start to gather some information. If that's a general consensus, then we're good to accept this as just as information, and we have enough to go on that.
Okay. So what is our general consensus? I'll go around the room real quick to see what are we thinking along the lines of Councilor Marsh's suggestion to wait till the Aqua master plan comes in and go from there?
Receive this as information for now.
Yeah, just continue to receive it, and staff will work on diving this a little further. Okay. Receiving this as information, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. That could talk about regulars, council schedule adoption. If I can get a move in a second, please. Moved by Councilor Campbell, second by Councilor McCutcheon. Be it resolved that council approve the 2026 regular council meeting schedule as presented, and that staff post the approved schedule in accordance with the notice provisions of procedural bylaw 2020-07. Any questions or comments on the schedule from council? Call for vote. All those in favor? The mixed board representation, if I could get a mover and seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Allen, seconded by Councillor Morris. Whereas it is necessary for the township of Black River Masson to maintain representation on the mixed board to ensure continued participation and communication between the township and the organization. Therefore, be resolved that council accept the resignation of Councillor Cancel as the town's representative on the mixed group board, and that council appoint Councillor Blank as a new representative, and that the clerk notify the mixed group of the change. I'll open out to questions, comments, suggestions from council to replace the blank. Okay, well, I'm gonna put a suggestion, seeing as everybody's quiet here. I'm gonna suggest that our new Councillor Morris, I think she would be an awesome addition to the mixed board.
Okay, and I was looking at the schedule. This is really not, I have darts on Wednesday nights. I know I mean, I guess I could miss it. I'm just trying to see if, like, cause I've already started, I need to let them down, but, how often do you have to go?
It's just the 6 getting ones.
Just once a month?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do it.
Maybe when you're going to the council, to the board's meeting, Steve could replace
Take
you.
your-
Yeah, take your darts.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'll do it.
So I think she seconded.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If I could call for a vote on that, all those in favor? Carried. Don't read that whole thing. Good.
Yeah, wants to be read.
Yeah, all of it, just your glasses.
We're on to phenom request. If I could get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor McCutcheon, seconded by Councillor Bouchard. This is support for the 2+1 highway resolution, and it is very long. I'm sure everybody has read the resolution. I'm just going to open the floor for questions or comments on that. Councillor Bouchard.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. The only concern here is that the multiple times they emphasize on doing the 4-lane on Highway 17, which is not in our area. But definitely needs some improvement on what's going on the highway. I think we should support it totally, and they'll do further north in the next phase.
Yeah, this was an election. These are all election promises, so we're just looking for support to phenomenal. Councillor Allen.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of videos lately through online of John Vantoff being in the House and speaking to this ongoing issue and asking the minister, I can't remember, but whoever it is that deals with this and says, you know, can we please get this going? Can we please get this happening? Because I think he said from January to September of last year or this year, the highway was closed, Highway 11 was closed 32 times for 32 days. And that's, they want to get up to the Ring of Fire and things like that and get things going up north, but it's hard to do that when you're having so many accidents on a highway that's not developed enough for the traffic that's going on it. So it's already kind of in motion, which is nice to see, and then to be able to support it is good.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Council.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know if you have the answer to this, but is this them trying to re-bring this back to the minister? 'Cause I know it already went to the ministry and it got voted down. Like I support this, like we definitely need
Mhm.
our highways to be widened. But is this them trying to bring it back to the minister at the table again?
Again,
Okay,
and continued support,
Yeah.
continued presence in front of the minister.
Mhm.
Every opportunity that they get. And there'll be another phenomenal meeting in June, July-ish of 2026, so. No further comments. I'm gonna call for a vote on this. All those in favor? Carried. Here. 10E. Wait for council to remove himself. If I could get a mover and a seconder on discussion about Highway 1175 South. Council moved by Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Allen. Whereas the municipally owned lands at 1175 Highway 11 South present strong potential for mixed use development that aligns with the township's long-term growth objectives. And whereas subdividing the lands into development ready parcels may improve marketability and attract a broader range of investors. And whereas council prioritizes strategic land management to support emerging development opportunities. Therefore, be it resolved that council direct staff to prepare a report outlining options for subdividing the property at 1175 Highway 11 South, including potential lot configurations, planning act requirements, timelines, and estimated surveying, consulting, and legal costs. And that the report incorporate and evaluate the subdivision concepts submitted by Councillor Morris and be returned to council for further direction. Sure, everybody's read that proposal. I'm going to open the floor for questions or comments. Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I only thought about this after having some discussions with yourself, actually, of how we're moving quickly and how the mines are all wondering if they could find area to put camps and stuff like that. And I thought we need to be more proactive. We recently gave property away for $1, which was great because it's going to bring a lot to our township, and I was 100% behind that. And we didn't make any money at all on our last transaction for our last town hall. So I was thinking we could be more proactive and use this surplus land to possibly bring in revenue that would help us. Plus, it would open up the land for further development. So if somebody wants to come in, it's ready to go. And I understand that we have a lot of irons on the fire right now, but I was thinking if we could just do a basic study that see if the lands could be divided, how much it would cost us to proceed. I don't want to do it all at once. I just want to do a basic study just to see what that land could offer the city in terms of further development.
Okay. Councillor Bouchard.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the intent with the proposal is really to if you have smaller parcels that are dedicated, like you got one section is going to be for subdivision, the other section would be for a business on the highway, another section could be for something differently. It would make smaller parcels that could be potentially sold at probably a higher market value than the whole unit. And for the developer, it would be less of an overhead to be able to handle just a smaller parcel. Okay, we're just going to develop this small parcel here of 20 acres and somebody else can take care of the other part. So it brings in more multiple people to develop it. So, that's what
Councillor McCutcheon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can appreciate what we're trying to do here, trying to get ahead of everything, have small parcels and stuff. I've said this before recently tonight. We have a lot of things that are going on. We got the Tim Hortons, we got the hotel, another fast food place possibly. We have the child care center. All the stuff that we've approved to happen. We have some foundation and stuff work going over where the Tim Hortons is supposed to be. I think we need to put the brakes on dumping prime land. Or trying to figure out what to do with it, until we see some of the fruition of what we've done. So we can actually decide what we need. Like what the town needs in like a year, 2 years from now, once all this stuff starts running, like what, if we need another hotel, because this one's booked all the time. And we've sold off all our prime real estate on the highway, where do we get a developer to put a hotel in? And if we've already got a big parcel of land already cut into pieces for this, and this. Like, I understand it'd be great to do the preliminary, to have stuff like, hey, like if we wanna have a big parcel and all that, and can the ground and testing and all that, like, do some preliminary stuff. But if we wanna think ahead. We need to like ease up a little bit and just see what we need and get what we need. Who knows, maybe somebody wants a bigger ambulance station. A more centralized fire department out of town. Hotel. The truck stop, truck dealership, who knows? Like we don't know what is gonna happen after all this stuff shows up. So I like the idea of like looking at it and making sure the land's good, it can be developed and can be done. But to actually start parceling it off to say, this is what we want to build. I think we're a little bit too far ahead of ourselves on that.
Okay, good comments, thank you. Councillor Morris?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate all that you said, and that does make a lot of sense. My idea is just because we had, I believe, 5 delegations in the last few, 6 actually, people coming to us. We're not going to them. They're coming to us saying, we want that land. I mean, people might not sit around forever waiting for that land. They're gonna go elsewhere. We've already had people say, well, if they're not gonna deal with us, we'll go elsewhere. I think we need to be a little bit more proactive. I'm not saying go out and spend $1 million next year. I'm saying just look at it, see what we can do with it, see what's available. If we were to divide it up into, say, just the highway area, just an example, 4 lots, if we could do that and we sold them for $100,000 a lot, we would have control over, we could have control over who we sold it to once the lots were divided. Plus, we would also get the taxation, the revenue from them people after they built a business. And we don't have to sell it to somebody if we don't want. If we've got 4 hotels, we could be like, no, we have enough hotels. We would have control over it because it's ours. We can sell to whom we want. But then we would also get the revenue from having the division of those lands. Would be more money for us in the long run too. So we're getting the money for selling the property and we're getting the money for the taxes. And like I said, it doesn't have to happen overnight. It's just something that I think we should be more prepared for, considering the amount of interest that has been shown lately for that land. And it's been a lot of interest.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Morris. Oh, Councillor Allen.
I agree with both Councillor McCutcheon and Councillor Morris. In different ways. One thing I do think holding off is a good idea because like you said, we do have a lot of projects going on, and depending on how these projects go can determine how projects like this can go forward. But I also think that you are correct, Ms. Morris, in the fact that maybe doing a study just to see what we could do with the property. So that we are somewhat prepared for down the line, so that if we do have other people coming to us asking questions about, hey, maybe we only want 50 acres, maybe we only want 20. We're just looking at this particular portion of the property or whatever for a certain thing, then we're not forcing people to buy 100 acres and develop the entire thing when we need a dealership or whatever put in there at that time. So I think it's right to not necessarily sever it immediately and put it into parcels or anything, but just see what we could do that would be the best bang for our buck once we do go to sell it.
Okay, I'll jump in here. I think the concept that and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Morris is presenting is just to do a study to look at what we will need or what we may potentially need, but not to go ahead with subdividing and severing. It's just to get the study done to say this is the potential for that property in terms of commercial and residential and industrial. the study might take months and months and months, so I think that's the concept, if I'm correct, Councilor Morris, just
Right.
to look into the future.
Right, and we don't even know, like, I had spoke to James about it and he was going to go ahead, he said, because he'd probably done mostly in-house, so it won't cost a ton of money. And he explained that he could talk to the MTO to see if we did decide to sever the frontage into 4 lots, that could we have access for the people to be able to have access to the property, because maybe that's not feasible. But at least if we had that and people came to us and said, hey, I want to invest in Matheson, we're like, hey, yeah, we have something in the works. We have something to show them.
Correct, okay. Mr. Gier?
Thank you, through you, your worship. I'm completely in favor of subdividing and making sure that, you know, we can adhere to more than one developer and, you know, seeing what can happen in the next 5 years. The caution that I have with doing the preliminary work today is depending on what happens with Aqua in the next 2 months or so, we're gonna have our final numbers on exactly what our current development needs on our current infrastructure. So for our sewer system, we are going to be very close to maxing what we can accept for development in Madison underneath our current infrastructure. So we won't necessarily be able to accept much new development if they want to get on our complete utilities. And there's different setback regulations if you're going to have a developer have its own septic as opposed to going to our utilities or not. Use just our water and a septic or vice versa. So until we have the estimated number on where we're at for capacity, if we're sitting at a 79% out of 80, well, we might only be able to have very few development until we go through our master plan and see what it's going to take for us to increase the other side of it. So, you know, we're going to get into budget here and where do we want to spend our money? Where do we want to see? If we go and spend X amount of dollars on 1175 now, we might not be able to even accept development until we upgrade the other side of it right now, unless a business owner is ready to go with septic.
Mhm.
And right now, for anyone new coming to the table, I don't have those answers yet. I can't, if you came to me today and said, I want to build a secondary motel, I don't know if our current infrastructure would be able to support that until we do the Aqua study. And, you know, so it's just, if we're going to look at 1175 and how we're going to divide it, how we're going to divide it may change based on what Aqua's numbers come back with. Because if we want development in the next 2 to 3 years, well, that may be the only way is on septic, and that may only cater to a percentage of people that want to do business in Madison, right? So it just, until we get back to those preliminary numbers, we're kind of at a standstill on really saying, yes, we can take new development. So just keep that in mind that
You sure didn't clear it much. Councilor Morris?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going from the delegations that I had read that were presented to council earlier. And I believe most of them didn't care if there was water and sewer. They were ready to do it on their own. They were ready to set up their own septic. They were ready to handle that all on their own. So we do have businesses out there that are ready and willing to come in and say, we'll do it without putting extra burden on the municipality.
And absolutely, and I'm just saying, and that's what I mean, but the lot size for a lot that requires septic and a lot size that doesn't require septic will be 2 different sizes. Right? So if we go to a planner today and said, we want to theoretically tell us how many lots we can do here. Well, one of their first questions is going to be, are they going to have municipal services or not? And right now I can't answer that. So we can get some very preliminary things, but there will be nothing concrete if we approve any money moving forward on exactly lot size until we know that, right? So if we have a developer tomorrow come in and say, I need 2 acres and I want to do my own septic as long as you give me municipal water, we could then reach back out to the planner and say, you know, hypothetically, what would be the first 2 acres we should develop here? Right, but we would still wanna go through a third party to make sure that we're developing the proper 2 acres, cause just because it's the next 2 acres for entrance permits and. Your hydro and where our current utilities are, it may not be the actual best 2 acres, right? And that will have to come from a third party, so. You know, like really high level, we can probably start to do some research, but concrete, you know, I'm really anxious to see what that Aqua number comes back once we get all of our current development numbers put in.
Questions, council, comments? So. We need to give direction for. For staff here and. Like the basic study, is that something that we wanted to do in-house to begin with? Or is it something that we're gonna put in the budget for 2026?
Like, when we talk about basic study, are we looking just high level, like the highway, like, if we said we wanted to concentrate on highway development. You know, then we could look at, you know, talking to a third party about highway, we can make conversations with the MTO ourselves, but they're gonna be looking for more information
Mhm.
eventually. Like, it all depends on how in depth we wanna go.
Okay. So can we, is it would it, a base for this, Council Morrison, if we started say with the basic highway development? Either residential or an industrial, but just have the highway looked at for now.
Thank you. I actually did have a meeting with James and Jill last week. And we discussed that exact same thing, just a very basic MTO access. How much would it cost for a survey? We just developed along the corridor and left the back property for now. So we weren't biting off more than we should right now. I believe we talked about that, right, James? And you said that you could do most of it within house?
Yeah, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, we could definitely get cost estimates, we could definitely have preliminary conversations with the MTO. And then we could also identify some of the other things that we could do in-house versus what needs to be done third party. And then also identify, you know, what out of that is gonna be impacted by the capital plan that Aqua's gonna send in.
So what we could do is bring back a report with all of those things. And then seek further direction from council on what they wanna do after we have that information. Maybe for the time being, council will be satisfied with the information we bring back. Maybe council will want to engage with a third party to start a study or to go more in depth with a study once. You know, we've exhausted all of our options that doesn't cost us any capital dollars.
Okay,
If that makes sense.
does that follow along the lines of your resolution?
Not really, but I'm willing to settle.
Well, it just, if we wanna spend money, we just need to know where the money's coming from or just.
No, it's fine. I
budget
think
it.
it's preliminary step that's.
Okay.
And that will settle the short-term quick growth and as well the Councillor McCutcheon's desire for the backup plan for in the future. Councillor Morris?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and it also will give us something that we can tell developers who are coming to town to say, what are you doing with that? Are you just sitting on it? Because we've asked about several times. We could say we're looking into it.
Yeah, and just to elaborate on that, we are still having conversations with certain developers who are still very interested, even if. We can't supply them with sewer,
Mhm.
right? And there are different aspects out there, as Councilor Morse already extended, that, you know. There are still people at the table that could be looking
Yes.
for property, so doing this preliminary work will just give us answers to go back to those current developers with.
Okay. Do I need a resolution or we just continue on with that resolution?
So the mayor, the resolution as is covers all the bases, it's good to go.
Okay. Okay. Any further last comments? Okay, I'm gonna call for a vote for the resolution on Highway 1175 South. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. I'll wait till Steve returns.
Oh. Who we missing? Inside of it, so. No, and inside it's just like, really. Sure. Part-time employment.
Paul, gonna talk about the Thelma Miles Museum Heritage Artifact discussion. Councilor Morris, if I could get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councilor Morris, seconded by Councilor McCutcheon. Thank you. Whereas the former BRM museum remains closed with no established timeline for reopening, and residents have expressed concerns regarding the condition and safeguarding of artifacts loaned to the township. And whereas some families have requested the return of loaned items, and council recognizes the importance of ensuring these artifacts are appropriately cared for, and where requested, returned through a clear and responsible process. Therefore, be it resolved that council direct staff to bring back a report outlining options for next steps related to the assessment, preservation, and potential return of artifacts stored at the former BRM museum, including any required procedures, documentation, or resources considerations. And that the report also identify any policies or frameworks needed to support the proper handling of loaned or donated items. I will open the floor to Councillor Morris.
I did a tour recently with Monty with this clerk, and because I had a lot of residents who were concerned that the museum, they had donated things from their families like uniforms and furniture, and they were concerned that they heard that there was mold and that the museum wasn't being looked after. And I can tell the people that it's great. The museum is warm. There's no mold, there's no moisture. It's wonderful. I do have a concern, though, that the museum has been closed for 6 years and we are sitting on some pretty wonderful stuff up there. And I think if we're not going to use it, then we should be trying to return it to the benefactors that gave it to us and trusted us with it, because it's not fair. There's amazing things up there, and I think one family in particular asked me if they could have their grandfather's uniform back. And I'm like, you absolutely should be able to get the uniform back that's sitting in a box up on a hill. And the other thing is, we are paying to keep that building heated in hydro, and it's not doing anything, and I don't ever foresee it opening again. I think maybe on a smaller scale, we could do something in the future, but for now, I think that we should try to wind down what we have up there and deal with it instead of just pretending it's not up there. And that's just my thought on it.
Thank you. Any questions, comments on museum from council? Councillor McCutcheon.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I saw this, I was gonna reach out to you, but I had an idea for the museum. We're gonna involve the 2026 budget. Because we have Lisa's running rec now. So I thought transferring the museum to rec so that we could have it staffed in the summertime with students. And in the spring, so the school can still do trips. That's where I was kind of gonna go with it in the budget, see if we can actually get it open again. Because that was one of the major asks when we ran for council when we got dissolved, was what's happening with the museum. I think the museum should be open. I don't think we can afford to open it all every week, like all winter long. But I think if we transferred the museum to rec, the inside part of it, summer students could run it through the summer. People could enjoy it. And then in the winter time, we just have to maintain the heat and do what we've normally been doing with it. But that's for discussion down. So,
Yeah, that'd be obviously a budget.
it's a budget consideration.
Yeah.
So I understand that we should still do this, so everybody has their artifacts they know what to do, but there is, like, I've always had an appetite that museum should be open. So I was gonna go down that road during the budget, so.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Morris.
Thank you. I totally agree with you, Councillor. It's optimal if we could reopen the museum. I just didn't think it would be a possibility. But if that be in the works. I know there'd be so many people that would be thrilled to have that place open again.
I think if we give it to rec to run. Cause right now it's designated as far as I understand, talking with Joe there. It's designated underneath administration. So it's the admin staff that are responsible for the museum. If we actually transfer it to rec, that'll give Lisa that little extra little work, cause she's not that busy, right?
Not her.
But also like I've never actually done a whole tour of the building up there, but that would also give her options to store stuff, do stuff for rec on the property up there, do museum tours during the summer, so. Like there's something we have to visit in the budget, but now that we actually have Lisa designated, we didn't have that before.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where we want to run down the road.
Councillor Morris?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm 100% behind that idea. The reason I brought this forward is I've had, like I said, people asking me for their artifacts back, and I don't want another 6 years to go by with things sitting up there disintegrating.
Oh, we should still have the way to do it, like the proper way to release it back to the family, so that it's all like, here it is, this is, you know. That makes sense, but I just don't want everybody to go up there and just take everything away.
Oh, no, that's why I'm just gonna work with Angie. We're gonna make a committee to start the process of if we were to give back
Wind it down.
things, wind it down, that there has to be a process.
Just wind it down a little bit. Just a little bit,
Yeah. Okay, but
that's it, that's all I got.
Any other questions from council? No. Okay, I'm gonna call for a vote on the report to come back. All those in favor? Okay. Move on to landfill discussion. I get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Allen. Seconded by Councillor Cancel. Thank you. Be resolved that council received report DPS 2025-17 landfill operations for information, and that council endorsed the continued implementation of updated landfill operational procedures, including waste screening, inspections, cover requirements, training, and ongoing cleanup activities. And that council authorized Public Works to proceed with a trial rental of a dedicated landfill compactor at an approximate cost of $13,500 per month for a period of up to 3 months, with all rental payments to be fully credited toward the purchase should the township choose to acquire the unit. And finally, that staff report back to council following the trial period with operational benefits and a recommendation regarding permanent acquisition. I'll open the floor for discussion. Councillor Morse.
3.5 years ago, I contacted council and administration because back then the dumps or the landfills were a total disaster. They were not environmentally safe. They were not sorted properly, and in the 3.5 years since then, it has not got better. It doesn't matter what council's in, it doesn't matter what the administration is in, the dump is a mess. And if you go there and you look at it and you see the stuff that is in that pile that just keeps accumulating, it's crazy. I visited dumps all around. I visited Sudbury, North Bay, Cochrane. I visited all those dumps. Nobody has a dump like Matheson. Nobody. It's ridiculous how awful our dumps are. And I know that this staff here are all new and it's not on them. And this council's all new, it's not on them, but the buck has to stop somewhere. Somebody has to, at one point, not point fingers and just say, what are we going to do? Because nothing has been done and nothing is being done. And you can't say that it's going to take a long time because we don't have a long time. There were 3 cells that were built in 2022 that was supposed to last us. We're on our 4th cell that is now full and digging a 5th one. And what is in that landfill? What I have pictures of? Lawnmowers with gas motors, tires with rims, bladders with whatever chemical, who knows in it, they're not tagged or nothing. Furniture, mattresses, everything that should be sorted properly is just and nobody is accountable. It's just trucks are backing up and dumping what they want in there. Nobody, I went to the dump 9 times in the last 8 weeks. I was stopped twice out of 9 times to check my load. That is unacceptable. And I think that we need to look at it seriously and do something immediately. And I think that it's got to the point that we have to deal with it today, not in a month, not in 2 months. It has to be done today.
Thank you, Councilor Morris. Any other questions, comments from council? Councilor Allen.
From what I see with the landfills, and I've said this before, is a lot of the times it's the people who are regular users who come in every day, who are dumping things in the places where they know they're not supposed to be dumping. They have gained the trust of our landfill attendees, and they hide things underneath to purposely entrap the landfill attendees. So they don't have they've made them so comfortable that they go, oh, okay, yep. This is Joe. Joe's been here every week for the last 10 weeks, and Joe goes in and Joe dumps the load and everything like that. And they don't go and check because Joe generally is a responsible person who comes around, and that's what they see. However, what they don't know is that Joe's hiding a bunch of stuff underneath and dumping it in. Now, I think there's a lot of people that, because this landfill thing has been such a big uproar in the last little bit, that have purposely gone to the dump with those intentions of hiding things underneath things and dumping them when people aren't looking and things like that. And I don't think that's very fair to the process, because I do know that previously, I know with Lisa and now I believe with James, they are working very hard to try and rectify this landfill situation. And I know that Lisa has spent many, many hours cleaning up the dump, as well as students and everyone else, and trying to do their best. So yes, I do agree that something needs to be done about the landfills, but I think our approach on how to do it has to be reasonable, and we have to make sure that we're protecting our employees as well, because I feel like a lot of them have received a lot of harassment and attention because of this, and it's not necessarily always the employees' fault. I think a lot of it has to do with our residents, and our residents know better, and they continue to do things that they shouldn't be doing. So realistically, like I've said before, when I go to the dump, which I don't do very often, I go to the attendee every time, and I ask them every time where they would like things. Would you like scrap metal here, tires here? Where do you want me to put everything? Because I sort my trailer and I make sure, because I'm going there once a month or once every 3 months, because I'm trying to be responsible. A lot of these people are pulling the wool over these attendees' eyes and basically entrapping them into a situation where they get in trouble for something that they had no idea that was going on.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Allen. Councilor Campbell, you had a hand up?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I agree, our dumps are a disaster. I haven't visited Raymore or Valdania in a while, but I know Matson has never looked worse. Like, I don't know what changed in the last 10 years, but I remember going there back in the day, and you would have to drive from pile to pile to pile, take out a little bit at a time, because it was sorted. I don't know why we're not sorting it anymore. I don't know why everything's going in one big pit. It makes no sense. I don't think a compactor is gonna help us, because how are you gonna compact 2x4s and construction material, metal? That's not gonna solve anything. We've never had a compactor before, have we?
Nope.
And Valdania and Raymore don't have a compactor. So I don't see why this is gonna help us any, especially if everything's going into the pit.
Okay. Councilor Bouchard?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think to get emphasized on that, I've got a few pictures on my phone of the dump situation there, and it's definitely, dumping everything in a hole is definitely not the answer, so we need to, look at providing the employees that work there the option of knowing where everything should be. Like the last time I was there was a bunch of old oil cans, the plastic containers. They were empty, but they're still all in the hole. There's somebody showed up with a trailer, dumped I don't know, like about a dump truck almost size trailer into the pit with all old lumber, old doors, old windows, everything goes in the hole. And I I don't understand why we're doing it that way. We need to provide the employees working there the tools to say, okay, no, this needs to go over here, this needs to go over there. And us, I go there about every 2 weeks, for work, and we bring all the recycling at one time, we put it all into the bins, and then when we bring the garbage, we sort the garbage separately from the thing, and we put the recycling where it belongs. And I think that would improve the life of the landfill, and again, the compactor, I mean, if we had a dump the size of maybe Timmins, it would be worth it, but I mean, for a 100-foot trench, and then how are you gonna bring it to other sites, because compactor, I'm pretty sure is wider than 8 feet wide with those wheels on. You wanna be able to move it back and forth from site to site if you need to, so.
Miss Councilor McCutcheon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I've never been to the Matheson dump. I go to the VG dump, and you need more staff. There's one person that's there, right? They're at the shack where they get where everything is. But the location for them to watch what's getting thrown out or where it's going is 100 feet away. I think the dumps are understaffed. Like, you can't have somebody sitting there taking the names and looking at the loads. And then trusting that the people are gonna go down and put them where they're supposed to go. But there's nobody there saying, no, that goes over here, that goes over there. Then everything's going in the hole. I think it's staffing, training, and basically just getting everybody in the routine of this is where everything goes. It doesn't happen because it's understaffed. The dumps are understaffed. That's all it boils down to. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Thank you. Mr. Zager, did you want to elaborate on this?
I'll just say one point but then I'll let James talk to anything on the staff side, as he spent most of the time here getting all this ready. So the landfill issue and the compactor is not to take care of the issue. So with our third party Story Environmental, there's not too many dumps left out there that don't have a compactor, because compacting garbage with a dozer, we're compacting at about 7 PSIs. And a garbage compactor is gonna compact at 700 to 900 PSIs. So even if our dump has a 25-year lifespan right now, with getting a compactor, even if you did everything right, if you get a compactor, it's going to extend your life by years by getting a compactor. Most municipalities now have a compactor. Day of the dozer going around is pretty null and void now. And the reason, and as per councillor, you're right, the compactor would not be able to be moved every day. But this is starting to get in, we were starting to build reports to be in line with council suggestion on only using one landfill at a time. Like there's still an open report out there that council wanted to see one landfill being used at a time, not to have all the landfills open at the same time. So where our thought process went to was you're gonna do a new cell in any one of the landfills, the compactor is gonna be at that site. The compactor is going to compact the garbage at that site. The other 2 landfills would be transfer sites to where you would have a GFL bin for your residential garbage, where residents would still be able to, for X amount of hours a week, go and dump their garbage into those bins, and then it would be transferred to the site where the compactor is. That's where the compactor comes in, okay? And every time we talk with Story Environmental, the compactor comes up. Just as a note. So we're not looking at getting a compactor to try to fix our problem or to put a band-aid on our problem. It was to enhance the thought that council was eventually wanting to not always have 3 dumps open within the municipality. That was the direction I had given Jim. Okay?
Yeah.
Just to clarify that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lefebvre?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, this report is probably a little bit premature. We could probably stand to have a more comprehensive review of the landfills and how we could improve our operations overall. Matheson's obviously a little bit unique, given our population and the number of landfills that we have per capita. It's a little bit extraordinary when you think about it. I don't disagree that, we have some improvement that needs to happen at the landfills. That's probably gonna be achieved through, public education initially, through holding our staff accountable, through supervision. And again, as tough as it is, over a little bit of time.
So we have two issues here that are coming up, obviously. One is the compactor, which is the resolution, and the two is the condition of the landfills. So I hear what everybody's saying here. One is public education, right? Public education. Let's take that out of, let's take that out of the question. We've educated the public now, so now it comes down to accountability. So I think what everybody at the table here is saying is, how do we make our employees at the landfill accountable? And we can't be obviously a month, 2 months, 3 months, but like how is it if we have all these policies and procedures here? What can council do to direct to get that to happen right away, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, I would say that accountability has already begun. I think that's something that's been ongoing over the last month or so. And I think that is going to improve things probably over a shorter term than it sounds like we're saying it's going to take. As far as the compactor goes, it's an option. There's a couple of other options in the report. That's not something that needs to happen today. But when we're talking about the material and the lifespan of the landfill, it would definitely go a long way in improving that in the very short term. Right? When you talk about Matheson landfill and the pile that we have there, it's a lot more manageable if we have a compactor that can compress it 10 times more than it goes and floats over the material that's in the hole.
Councillor Morsch?
I disagree. I think that until we see a clear and measurable improvement in the condition of our landfills, I think that option one would be the best one to go with. We need to get our staff in place. We need to get the people to be educated and to store property. We need signage to say, this is where wood goes. This is where we need clear indication for the public to know where to put stuff. Because everything that we currently have in landfills is a study that I looked up. Mattresses, furniture, vegetation, thick wood, batteries, aerosol cans, paint cans. I have pictures of all these in the landfill site, by the way. Pet waste, fabric. That all will destroy a compactor. That will wreck the teeth, that will wreck the gears. So until we, and then there's a paragraph in here that says legacy materials identified in the existing deposits, tires with rims, which I have, metal, discarded equipment will be staged and for proper disposal and removed. We can't do that. EPA clearly states you cannot touch landfill. We could not, unless we hired a third party, we cannot go in and touch that garbage right now as it stands. Because it's illegal. You have your OSHA and you have your EPA regulations that people cannot touch because there's needles, there's all kinds of stuff that could be in that garbage. Unless you have properly suited up, you can't touch it. So that landfill as is has to be buried. We can't do anything with it unless we hire a proper company to come in and deal with it. So we are stuck with what is there. And until we can figure out that this is not going to happen again, I don't see how a compactor is going to help. I think what we need to do is clear up what we have, move forward. And then when we have our new pit, we could say, okay, once we've got it all established that, okay, we know wood goes here, we know nobody's throwing tires into the thing, there's no mattresses, then we get a compactor because now we have it under control. But just to come in and say, let's just throw everything into that doesn't make sense to me. We need to clear up what we have and then move on.
Oh, Ms. Larson, I'll come to you, Steve, in a second.
I didn't have my hand up.
Oh, we got false hopes here. Councillor Cancel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Councilor Moore basically covered my point, but we used to have signage. I don't know why we don't anymore. And the intent used to tell you like, hey, you got wood in there, you go put it back here. If you have glass, you gotta take it over here. You put tires in the tire pile. Electronics go there, metal goes here. They used to tell us all that. Now you go there, go to the pit. And everything goes to the pit.
Mr. Zager.
Thank you to you, your worship. I'll say that the staff and James in the last 3 weeks, I think, have started to get on the right path. I've witnessed our municipal compliance officer in the last week and a bit, right beside the hole after one person dumped, to ensure what was said was in the bags was actually what was in the bag. We've also had somebody this week, today, I believe, come here yelling basically and screaming almost because he was turned around at the gate because he had a mixed load and didn't want to separate it. So we're starting to see with James and his team, we're starting to see little wins. It's going to take a little bit, but I believe that underneath James' guidance, we're on the right path. We have had some employees switch in and out. We are using a third party right now for part of our operations, and we're gonna go through that on budget. If what we currently have is what we want to stay with. Do we want to look at a third party contract? Do you want to see a hybrid? And if we want more staff, well, then we can implement something in the budget. But right now, with nothing in the budget, it's hard to increase staff unless we take money out of someone. As much as we can work on signage and education and making sure that the attendants are doing what they're supposed to do, to increase the amount of personnel there before budget, we would need direction from mayor and council and from the church on where that money would come from.
Okay. Councillor Bouchard. Oh, Councillor Allen.
Just a question, because we're talking about the attendees and their, or the employees and their accountability and everything like that. For residents or people who are using the dump, what kind of accountability are we going to set for them, other than just turning them around? Because if they do come in and they do dump wrong in whatever way, is there a policy or a format as to how that's dealt with?
Mr. Lefebvre.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So again, public education I mentioned, I guess the tougher side to that is public accountability.
Yeah.
Which would come through administrative monetary penalties and enforcing the bylaws that we have. So having the attendant there, and the attendant again being held accountable on our side, providing the information that we need and knowing what information to gather to support us laying an administrative monetary penalty on an individual who's done something in the landfill that isn't appropriate. I mean, again, these are things that take a little bit of time to implement, but they are on your way.
But we do have some sort of policy or specific fine or penalty for that. Yeah. Okay.
Councillor Bouchard.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think we need to be mindful of the employees are only employees. They're gonna do their best for people to respect what they're saying, but I think we need to definitely put a big emphasis on people, educating people when they go to the dump. This is the rule, this is what you have to do. Because, even for any employee, they don't want to be yelled at, they want people, being belligerent at them because we'll say, hey, you can't dump this here. I think we need, first and foremost, we need to make sure that every resident is aware this is the new rules and we're gonna be enforcing them. And this is, and that we're not gonna follow anybody yelling at the employees because they're just trying to do their job. It's a fine line. Some people are pretty nasty when you say, hey, you can't dump this here or whatever. So we need to be careful of that.
Councillor Morse.
Just to expand on what Councillor Allen said. I want to make sure that we're not being too harsh on the attendance, because there are some of them out there that are great. So it kind of feels like we're putting all the blame on the attendants for not the dumps being in the condition they are. Not their fault at all. It boils down to, and I also want to mention that you people that are in charge now were not here when the dumps got to be the condition that they are in, so this is no way your fault. And when I say management, I mean prior management and going forward. At the end of the day, it's management's responsibility. Who works under you, what they do. I likened it to if Steve had a car and he brought it back, a customer brought a car back to Steve constantly, and a person under Steve was working on the car and kept messing up the car. In the end, it's not, if Steve can blame the person all he wants, he's at the end of the day, he's the one that is responsible for that car being fixed properly. At the end of the day, management and ultimately council is responsible for the dump, not the attendant. We cannot place the blame on the attendant at all. It's up to us to make sure the attendant does their job. If they don't, then it's up to us to make sure that they do their job, and we should be there every day saying, why is that tire there? Why is that lawnmower there? We should be on top of it every day and not just blame the person at the bottom of the funnel. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Lefebvre?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I agree with that 100%. Frankly, going forward, if there's an issue with the landfill, I would expect hold accountability for that myself, not anybody else. Certainly not the attendants that are there. I think what needs to happen here is it's an overall culture shift, and unfortunately, it's not just the culture as far as the employees go. We also have to change the culture of the individuals who are using the landfills. And again, these are things that we should see market improvement in the short term. They also can't happen overnight. And I mean, frankly, regardless of whether we have a compactor to using a landfill or not.
Okay. Well, the consensus I'm getting is that we obviously go with option one when we do this report. But we can make big strides in a short period of time. If someone drives in and dumps off a tire or rim, it's too late by then, right? It's already in the landfill. So if that gentleman or that person is given a ticket and it comes in and pays it, tire is still in the landfill. So I think that's the consensus that we're saying is before it gets dumped, let's ensure that it's not dumped. Yeah, I think that's where everybody's kind of saying where we're going at. Mr. Zager?
So if somebody comes in with a tandem trailer and there's a tire at the bottom of the trailer and we don't notice it until it's in the hole.
If they dump it.
If the direction of council is they want us to guarantee to stop it, the only way to do that would be to dump that tandem in front of the hole. And then have it put into the hole once the load is verified if something's buried. Like we can't guarantee that if there's something in the middle of the pile.
Yeah.
We can't guarantee that it doesn't go in the landfill if we're dumping directly in the landfill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just.
The problem is there's nobody there to look. Right? That's the problem.
There's
Like
no more people.
you got one person sitting in the car taking the information. And then I have a free flow out the hole.
Mhm.
That's how it's going right now. There's nobody there down there saying, no, sir, that doesn't go there, that goes over there, that goes over here, that goes over there. Right?
Yeah.
I can pull up to the girl in the VG dump and I can say I got 4 bags of recycle and 6 bags of garbage. And I just go to the hole and I dump everything in. Turn around, drive out. Nobody's down there telling me, no, your recycle goes in the bins. Nobody's down there. So until there's people down there, until there's somebody down there, and there's 2 people, because if we're gonna go down this road, you're gonna have a lot of pissed off people that don't wanna do this.
Mm.
So again, nobody should be working alone. They should have somebody with them, so there should be 2 people. And then those 2 people, one takes the information, the other one's down at the hole or down at where the recycle is. Yeah, stuff's gonna slip through, the tire's gonna dump in by accident or
Mhm.
something's gonna be like that. Nobody's perfect. But when you're pulling up and you're just rolling one of those great big plastic totes with the aluminum frame right into the hole in front, and there's nobody there saying, no, don't do that. Then what's the point? Right, you can put up all the signs you want, you can send out all the emails you want, you can send out all the flyers you want. But there's no physical person down there. I went to the dump, when I lived down south, I went to the dump in Barrie. There's like 15 people
Mhm.
just walking around, like if you throw something in the wrong bin,
Mhm.
the attendant hands you a hook. That says, you gotta take that out and put that over there. That's the extreme part of the dump, we don't even close to that, right? There's no, you need people.
Come to you in a second, Mr. LeFevre. Councillor Marsh?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, just to expand on what Scott said, we did have a gentleman that worked at the dump before, when council was saying, you know, he had signs on his, I believe his name was Will. He was down at the hole, he took your name and number down, he didn't sit at the front facing the other direction as you drove in. We have the woman we have now currently sits at the mouth of the dump and can't see what's behind her, but Will was down at the dump and he would watch as you unload your trailer. If you had a tire, he'd be like, no, that goes over there.
If we're gonna talk about a specific individual who should be in closed session.
Oh, okay,
Just as a
sorry,
reminder.
okay, I'm sorry.
Just as a reminder.
Okay, well, no training, so, so we had a gentleman who was at the dump before, who would point out to you as you unloaded back then over there. He was actually involved in down at the cell itself, and it worked well.
Yeah, Mr. Jagger?
Was that, were we underneath the same system as we currently are, or was there like, was that like back when most of the bags had tags and whatnot?
No, that was a couple years ago, 2 years ago.
Okay.
Mr. LeFevre, and then we'll wrap this up.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, sorry, I just wanted to stress that there's going to be a change in the level of monitoring that's happening immediately. So what you're describing, you know, if you're going in with a pickup truck, for example, that load is going to be checked very early. And we're currently looking at moving the shacks that the attendants are using closer to the actual disposal area. So that they can sort of do a little bit more of both, obviously not at the same time, but they'll be able to keep an eye on things more efficiently.
Okay, so we have two options here. The resolution is for option 2, and I'm thinking this table is leaning towards option 1. Option 2 could come up again at the budget as well as extra staff. We're at the end of the year. So is that the flavor for this table is for option 1?
Mhm.
I'm assuming head nods, okay. So we're gonna pass an amendment for this. Amendment will read, be it resolved that council amend the resolution to follow option 1 from report DPS 2025-17. So if I could get a mover and a seconder for that, please. Moved by Councillor Campbell, second by Councillor Allen. All those in favor? Carried. Yeah. And have to read the entire resolution?
No, because we've amended it.
Okay. The highlight?
Yeah, it's all.
Okay. Okay, so it was moved by Councillor Allen, seconded by Councillor Campbell. Be it resolved that council receive report DPS 2025-17 landfill operations for information. And that council endorse the continued implementation of updated landfill operational procedures, including waste screening, inspections and cover requirements, training and ongoing cleanup activities. All those in favor of that? Okay, thank you. Move on to bylaws. Can I get a mover and seconder for the first bylaw, please? Moved by Councillor Allen, seconded by Councillor McCutcheon. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-70 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the corporation of the township of Blackburn-Masson be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 9th day of December 2025. All those in favor? Carried. I get a mover and a seconder for the second bylaw, please, for the service fees. moved by Counselor Cancel, seconded by Counselor Bouchard. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-58 being a bylaw to impose a service fee for credit card payments be read a third time and finally passed this 9th day of December 2025. All those in favor? Carried. Adjournment, can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Counselor McCutcheon, second by Counselor Allen. Be it resolved that this regular council meeting is hereby adjourned at 8:34 PM. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, council staff and